And so for me with Allegiance, I think that's something that the show does, um, is it really educates us about ourselves in a way, in terms of how we're different.
Um, but it is so lovely to see you again. It is so wonderful. And actually, Supinder, now I have to finally have the chance to say it. Congratulations on your Canada Screen Award for
Oh,
Allegiance
thanks.
last year. That was exciting.
Pretty cool, hey?
Yeah, yeah. What was going
Yeah.
through your mind in that moment?
I was really nervous. I remember sitting in the audience, and I know it's gonna sound silly, but it's like acting is so different than public speaking. And as much as I wanted to win in a certain sense, I was also sitting there being like, please don't call my name because I don't know that I want to go up there and make a speech in front of all of these people who I admire and have looked up to for so long. And, also seeing other actresses that I admire go up and accept the same award. Like it felt like the moment was a little bit bigger than myself, and I didn't know how to meet it, as
Mm.
those moments kind of always do, I think. And so it was pretty surreal. And I think you remember because I forgot to thank my family, forgot to thank a lot of people, and so I was unprepared. I was unprepared, but it was truly an honor.
It's very exciting and well deserved because honestly, Allegiance, we chatted about this last season, but it is this very special show. And absolutely love Sabrina, love your work, and love this show. For those who haven't seen it, assuming they need to get on this train, uh,
Sure.
can you tell us what in your mind sets Allegiance apart from other procedurals like this?
Yeah, and you know what? It's such a great question, Stephen, because I've been thinking about it, especially this last season that we shot. Um, with everything happening between Canada and the US and trying to understand, what does Canadian culture really look like, and what is it, and where do I belong in it? And am I doing my part? And am I buying local? All of those things, right? Those conversations that are happening right now. And so for me with Allegiance, I think that's something that the show does, um, is it really educates us about ourselves in a way, in terms of how we're different. In that first season, when Sabrina makes her valedictorian speech before becoming a member of the CFPC, she quotes Viola Davis. Um, and it's these little bits of our history
Mm.
and the landscape of what is happening in our communities, for the good and the bad. This year we have an episode um, that focuses on the Indigenous community and about forced sterilization, which is something that unfortunately has happened in this country, is still happening in this country. And so before I did that episode, I had no idea that that was happening. Um, and then also, episode 2 this season, we go into the blueberry farmers, which is an area of agriculture in Surrey, particularly, but across the greater mainland. There are so many Sikh Punjabi families who have settled here that were farmers back home in Punjab, who have come here and have built wonderful lives for themselves by farming in this community and bringing a skill set that they had back home to Canada. And so it really gives us a breadth of communities and issues, and opens the stories up in a way that really does educate us and asks us to ask questions of ourselves in a way that I haven't seen a police procedural do. Um, and even as a reader, when I first get the scripts, I really value, because I feel like I grow as an individual. I learn about Canada, about different communities, about my own community. And so, um, I think that answers, I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely, and I'm glad you brought it up because that was one thing I've really noticed in the show as it, I've seen the first two episodes of this season, but in past seasons as well, is this element of grace and understanding to these communities and to people, speaking specifically of the blueberry one, I think it's Blood and Berries, I think it's called.
Yeah, it's a great
Um,
title.
you have this conversation about who did this, but also this conversation of what they are going through in their experience.
Yeah.
And I think
And where
that's
they
such a
come from.
fascinating thing. Sorry, go ahead, please.
And where they come from. And how this particular story is so unique to the makeup of this individual, but this community that this individual belongs to. And, without giving too much away, the way that we do our police work is related to the historical elements of the Sikh community and coming and working in the sawmills and then onto the blueberry farms. And so there's a bit of a, you get a bit of sugar with your medicine in terms of like a history lesson, right? That isn't in our history books. I don't remember there being a chapter on Sikh Punjabi agriculture in Western Canada, but this is because it's current, because it's happening right now. And so yeah, I really do appreciate it for those reasons. And then also there's the murder and the crime and the solving and the propulsion and all of those things that we do, but also like I didn't know that the cartel was here. Maybe I should have. Maybe I should be a little bit less naive. Maybe I should have known that. But yeah, that first episode blew me away because I said, "What?
Mm.
I didn't know this."
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is what I mean. You've got all the great elements of a crime procedural, but there's a different take that helps us understand Canadian the Canadian culture and the cultures in Canada a little more fully, which I love that
Yeah.
about the show. How in your mind has Sabrina changed as we step into season three?
I think that there's, in a way, a softening to Sabrina. I think that those two um, end episodes at the end of season two really rocked her. She almost went to a pretty dark place,
Hmm.
and the show certainly did. And so um, she was forced to look at the consequences of her actions when she operates without her team. And so I think that there's an aspect to season three when we meet her because at the end of season two, she put down her badge and said, let the cards fall where they will, and I'm okay with what the outcome is. And I think when we come back for season three and she takes a look at her partner and looks at Zach and thinks about what he might need before thinking about what she wants and needs, um, I think it's really important. There's a growth to her where she's learning to put others before herself so that everybody can grow, so that everybody can learn, so that she's a better police officer for it. And it was really nice to live in that space. It was a little more relaxing for me. Anyways.
Well, one of the words that keeps coming up in the two episodes I've seen and for Sabrina is trust. And I think that's a fascinating challenge for her because, I mean, this is a woman who is throwing herself into these heavy cases. And yet, what seems to be the greatest risk for her is trust. Why in your mind is that such a challenge for her?
Well, I think when we meet Sabrina, there's been so much betrayal.
Hmm.
I think that in season one, um, somebody she had looked up to and her father's boss betrayed him. She was betrayed by her own police force. And then, when we come up in season two, there are actions that her own father takes that betray her. And so I think that there is a real lack of trust because of the danger that she's in, that she's also willingly put herself in. And so, trust is one of those things where you have to take the leap sometimes and maybe fall. And it's not something Sabrina likes to do. And I think it also becomes just for myself in terms of, being a minority, failing in front of others as a minority woman, as a South Asian woman, feels a lot more harder to do because the image that I've had to portray, the togetherness I've had to keep, and I'm speaking about myself here as well as Sabrina, that to break that facade of I'm okay over here, is a difficult ask. And so asking for help is not easy for most of us. It's certainly not for Sabrina Sohal.
Well, that's understandable, given all that she's been through. I mean, certainly she's been through the ringer, and we're looking forward to her journey for the next season as well, and hopefully well beyond.
I hope so too, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Is there just as we start to wrap up, Supinder, is there something I know you can't say things that you know about the season or anything, but something that you'd like to see for Supinder, or that's you, for Sabrina along her journey, somewhere you'd like to explore?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we had two new showrunners this season. We had Penny Gummerson, who was with us the first season, and Lee Lukens, who's new to the team. And it was really interesting to see two women at the helm of this show, because I feel like there was, and there is in this season, a femininity, but also an edge that they bring with that femininity. Somebody was saying this to me recently, where they said, in therapy, when a man comes in and you ask him, he comes in portraying a lot of anger, the therapist will say, okay, what are you really sad about? And a woman will come in portraying a lot of sadness, and they will say, okay, well, what are you really angry about?
Mm.
And I would say that with Penny and Lee at the helm of this show, and we get peeks into it this season, but that anger is something personally I would love to explore for Sabrina, because I think that there's a large well there of, the injustices that have just been put upon her from the system, from her father, from the people that she works with. And in terms of that question that you asked, Stephen, of, why is it difficult for her to trust? I think it's also the system, For season one, she was brought into this world, and her father was being charged, and the family, was subject to like national shame, and then the system said, do your job. And so that keeping of it together, who do you blame? Where's that outlet? And I would love to see that more for Sabrina. Put her in
I
a boxing class or something. Get her to break some things.
Now we're talking. There you go. No, that would be great.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah. There is a boxing, there is, when I say boxing, there is a boxing something coming up. So closer to the end of the season. Zip.
Fantastic. Honestly, the show continues to be wonderful, and I really do appreciate the chance to chat with you about it. Honestly, Supinder, thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you so much, Stephen. It's been lovely just sitting here looking at your big, beautiful blue eyes.
Thank you. That's so kind.